Yeah. Crack open the champagne. Yeah. GMG, baby, nigga. Certainly, I am on the path of a king, and tonight is no different. See the lights, cameras, certainly, I know that tomorrow is a mic, so I stay up on the scene, disregard of this stuff. Certainly, I'm getting better every year with every new endeavor. The greats near. Certainly,
that old school funk, y'all. That motherfucking, it's that David Ruffin. And this is the Temptations. You feel me? Yeah. So we out hitting these streets real quick. Got a bunch of things that I'm working on. I put a dent in my car a couple months ago. When I moved into my new house, I had just worked a 24-hour shift, and worked a 24-hour shift because right before my shift we had moved, and I had to go to work right after we moved, and worked all night and came home, and it's a new garage, and the Range Rover was pulled up a little bit further, so there's a certain way you got to park the Range Rover when you park. When I'm parking the Challenger, and I learned that the hard way when I turned into the driveway. Literally the very first day, I turned into the garage and put a dent on the passenger side door, and just been trying to find somebody to fix it, and that ain't gonna bust me upside the head out here. Everything out here seems to bust you upside the head when it comes to getting stuff fixed or just getting stuff out here, period. Everything is a tax, man. You know, taxes are expensive, the cost of living is expensive. Everything is expensive here except for good massages and weed. And I don't smoke no more, so the weed ain't doing me no good. But the massages are A1 out here, man. I found me a couple good spots. Anyway, talking today, basically about kind of like my first year in the Nav, man. My first year as a young, fresh 17-year-old sailor. Oh yeah, I haven't said it, but welcome back, Chi-Bred World TV, man. Welcome back, recruits. First year in the Navy, first port, first couple months, and kind of how, I survived, I guess you'd say, that first year. I went in, like I said before, at 17, so I was young. I had actually went to A school, and I came into the Navy as an aviation electronics technician, as an AT. And when I went to A school after boot camp, I was waiting to what you call class up, because I had went to A school around the holidays. So I was waiting to class up, basically waiting for people to graduate, and then waiting for people that was home on leave to come back so they can develop our class. And as I'm waiting to basically class up, I smoked cigarettes and started doing a little bit of drinking, and kind of got in the routine of it about a couple weeks, couple days into it or whatever, and get caught at this spot on base called Portside, I believe it was, Portside in Pensacola, Florida. Everybody that's stationed in Pensacola, Florida, man, let me know if Portside is still there. Anyway, caught Portside on base for drinking and smoking cigarettes underage, because I was 17. So yeah, I had to go to a fake ass captain's mast while I'm waiting to class up, and instead of them taking my time away and leaving me with my A school, they screwed me over and then made it sound like it was a good thing, and this is kind of how we get into like the the racial aspect of the military period, because it's definitely from what I've talked to other guys about, as far as this rate, it's not a lot of us in it, and that's something that wouldn't have happened. 99% sure of it, even talking to other people with similar situations, wouldn't have happened to anybody that probably wasn't a person of color or a black man, and that was going into that rate, the aviation electronics technician rate. So the CO at the captain's mast was formerly, well, he was like a CO over aviation electronics technicians or whatever. And he basically sold it to me. Well, instead of me putting you on half month's pay and restriction, hold on for a second, y'all. I'll be right back. Alright, y'all, welcome back. Sorry about that. Had to take a phone call. So back to what I was saying, recruits. The captain at A school basically sold it to me as far as taking my designation away, which was an AT, and having me go in undesignated, and said that was going to be a better option for me instead of going in classed up. It'll be better for me because then I'll be able to look at all of the other different rates and pick my rate and kind of get something that I might be better suitable for. Those was his words, you know. And, you know, I'm 17 years old at the time. You know, I'm fresh out of boot camp, so I have the utmost respect for, you know, everyone, basically. It doesn't matter if you're an E3, you know, if you're above me, or, you know, have been in longer than me, you know, fresh out of boot camp, you're Joe'd the fuck out. So you're listening to everything everybody is saying that's above you, and you're taking that and really thinking that they're looking out for your best interests, for the most part. And yeah, basically, I wasn't an undesignated airman when I went in, and he sent me in undesignated. Didn't I'm trying to figure out why this guy is taking this guy was taking pictures of my car and shit while he's driving. Yeah, so sorry about all the mess up. Anyway, he took my A school away from me and made it seem as though it was better for me, which is insane. To go in as an aviation electronics technician is a hell of a rate. You know, this is a rate that I could have got out and made $100,000 a year as an AT when I got out of the military. You know, this is a rate that I was going to be in school for, you know, 3 to 6 months, and I would have been in E4 within the first probably year and a half into the Navy, if not less time than that. I just would have been in a way better position in life and in my military career. I probably would have stayed in a little bit longer, because I probably would have been an E5, E6 close when I was close to getting out, to the point where I probably wouldn't have wanted to grow my hair and become a rapper because that money was looking too good. I probably would have just stayed in a little bit longer to at least, you know, do shore duty for the most part. But instead of him, you know, slapping me on the wrist and giving me 15 days, half month's pay, 15 days restriction, or 45 days, whatever, you know, those few things that he could have done to me that would have immediately affected me and affected my money, but wouldn't have hindered my future later on. If he would have did that to me then, right then and there, then I probably would have had a better career. But instead, he played this game with me where he sold it to me where if you're undesignated, this is better for you, which is anybody that you talk to that's been in the military or been in the military, in the Navy specifically, and go in undesignated, especially anybody that was in the airfield. Any of those people that you would have chose to be an AB or something, which is what I ended up eventually being, anybody would have chose AT over these positions. Anybody would have chose going in designated over going in undesignated and having to jump through the hoops that you have to jump through as an undesignated sailor or fireman or seaman or airman. You know, it's just common sense. But he played me that way, and then when I did a little bit more research, that's when I found out as far as the racial components of that position, and not a lot of us being in that position, and a lot of us that were in that position had to deal with a lot of racial disparities, I guess you can say, or not being promoted, not being looked at for certain early promotes and must promotes and things like that. Those are things that you can learn when you're in. But things of that nature, in that position, in that rate, we don't seem to do very well, and they don't seem to want us in those positions. And there are several positions in the Navy, and I'm sure the Army, the Air Force, especially the Air Force. I heard the Air Force is rough when it comes to us. That they don't want us in. You know, unfortunately, they don't want a black person in it, or a Hispanic person, or anybody that's not white. You know, they kind of want to keep those positions pure, which is insane. You know, but I mean, you got to realize that that's how the military used to be, and the military is pretty far behind when it comes to this world and catching up to what's the words that I'm looking for? Being equal, I guess. Being fair. You know, there's a lot of unfairness when it comes to your time in and serving, period. You know, there's a lot of things that I've seen that first year. The division that I went to, first I went to V1, which is the flight deck. It was on the flight deck for a little bit, then went cranking, then went to V3, which is in the hangar bay. And at that time, before my favorite petty officer, LPO, came around, at that time, that first year and a half, there was a straight up good old boy system. You know what I mean? Straight up good old boy system. Only leadership was white. There's a couple of Hispanics mixed in there, but the leadership was primarily white. Anybody that was pretty much black, if you were kind of a troublemaker, they wouldn't work with you, they wouldn't counsel you, they'd make sure you basically go to a captain's mast and try to get you up out of there. Like, you can go to captain's mast and your LPO, your leading petty officer, or your chief, or somebody will speak up for you and try to make things look a little bit better for you. That first year and a half, man, anybody that was going to captain's mast that wasn't white, you know, that was black, and that was looked at as somewhat of a troublemaker, or not willing to kind of shuck and jive for these fools, they didn't look up for them at all. Sometimes they didn't even go. They'd send them up there and didn't even go up there to, you know, say anything about who this person was. So it was a lot of foul shit that first year and a half, and I'm kind of lucky that, you know, I was cranking, I was TAD to the mess deck for a majority of that before my favorite LPO at the time, Petty Officer Johnson, ABH-1 Johnson came through. ABH-1 Johnson came through, and he regulated, and he was a brother, and he looked out for the brothers, but more importantly, he looked out for everybody. You know, it wasn't not one person that could say that he was unfair, I believe, during my time in. You know, he looked out for black, white, Filipinos, the Filipino mafia, you know what I mean, all of them. You know, he looked out for everybody. But, you know, you just seen the difference in his leadership style, which I try to base my leadership style off of now, off of his. You could just see the difference night and day, from when the good old boys left, Nellenbach and this other cat, I forgot some of the names, but I remember Nellenbach or whatever his name was. This dude was a straight up good old boy. And when Jay came in PIA in 2001, and all of our lives just got so much easier, man. We wanted to work for him. We wanted to, you know, do our best for him. We didn't want to let Jay down. You know, and that's the type of leader that you need to be. That's who he was. He was the type that you didn't want to let him down. You let him down, you let yourself down. That's a good leader. And that's what Jay was. Anyway. So I lose my A school, and he takes my A school away while I'm in A school. He takes the AT away from me, and he basically sends me into undesignated and sends me to the fleet. Bam, you know, like that. So in a way, it was a blessing and a curse, because most likely I probably wouldn't have ended up on the Lincoln if I did go to that A school and stay in there longer. And if I did, you know, I probably wouldn't have ended up as close to the people that I ended up close to, like Jay and, you know, some of my other friends that I made that's basically like brothers now and shit. I probably wouldn't have ended up with some of those guys or as close to some of those guys if I did eventually go to the Lincoln. But yeah, I was basically in and out of A school after everything that happened. I was supposed to be in Florida for like 3 to 6 months, and I was in Florida for maybe 3 weeks. And did my undesignated A school, went home to Chicago, and that was basically New Year's Eve. I was on leave for New Year's Eve, 99 into 2000, the whole Y2K shit. I was in Chicago in the Navy during that time. And after that, I went to the fleet. I reported to the Lincoln in January of 2000. And my first official deployment was a Santa Barbara deployment, which was crazy. I went to the fleet, and that's when I realized, whoa, it's a very big difference between the fleet and boot camp and A school, and everything that you learn in boot camp and A school, basically just kind of throw 99% of that shit out the window, because you ain't using it, and you're gonna look Joe the hell out if you go in acting like you go in into A school from boot camp into the fleet. You know, you learn everything all over again, and it's dope, to say the least. It's very, very dope. All right, y'all, I'm gonna pull up to this store. I'll be back in a little bit. We'll keep this conversation going, and holler at y'all in a minute. 100.